We're at the inaugural Australian Organic Convention. It's an event that I think it was well needed, but we were still terrified that we put something like this on because the industry, to sustain something like this, has to get to a certain point, and we weren't sure we were at that point, but as we've seen today, we're well and truly there. The practices that we use are sustainable, they're ecological, they're low carbon footprint, they're all the things now that people are excited about, all the things now that people want. Well, we've been doing that. We've been doing that for 30 odd years. We've always been early adapters. So even though we might be traditional in one sense, the guys are always looking for something new, they're always looking for something different. I sell vegetables for a living, but I employ people with computer science degrees because I know the future is how to get product to market quicker, how to engage the consumer quicker. So even though we might be traditional in one area, we're always looking at how you can just get ahead of the curve, how you can continue to evolve. And organics is one of the fastest growing sectors globally. So it's an exciting time to be in organics.
You guys have just come off stage with your panel. So was there anything that you guys didn't talk about, I guess, that you wanted to talk about in terms of the context of Australian agriculture in the face of a changing climate? And maybe specifically we can then jump into the organic side.
I mean, this conversation is so big and complex, and there's so many different parts that can be spoken about and need to be spoken about, because we need to be talking about, biodiversity, wildlife, the wild landscapes, the human elements, the economic elements, how the climate impacts not only just us in the farming system, but, us as a nation and the global implications of releasing greenhouse gas emissions. But as Mark also commented in his presentation, it's not just focusing on the impacts and, the problems that are arising from this climate, crisis that we're facing, but also the abundance of solutions, the opportunities out there. And I think that's where the conversation actually starts to become really exciting when we talk about what can be done, not only in rural Australia, but throughout the country, and the flow of benefits to the environment, to communities, to the economy.
Yeah, and my take was actually very similar. It's about what the opportunities are spread broadly, across sectors, not just on agriculture, but also take into account electricity sector, looking at other sectors, transport, waste industry, etc., and actually working together to actually solve this problem rather than lots of sectoral strategies which don't connect.
And on that, Mark, what you've for the last 30 odd years been working in this space, what was it that drew you into it originally, and what's actually kept you involved in the climate space?
It's probably because it's such a fundamental part of Australia and Australians in the sense of the environment in which we experience. So one of the ways I frame it is that almost everything we do here in Australia, and Australians do, is affected by climate one way or the other, and almost everything we do affects climate one way or the other through greenhouse gas emissions and other activities. And so it's actually interwoven into the whole fabric of Australia, and so it's really, really important topic, and what keeps me there is getting people to understand both the challenges but also the opportunities associated with climate change, so that they can become knowledgeable communicators about the challenges and opportunities themselves. So it's not just about people like Anika and me who talk about this, but everyone talks about it.
Has there been something that stood out from the conference today, but also too in the space that you guys specifically work in, that organics can really lead in this climate space?
Yeah, so I think being an organic producer is not necessarily an easy thing to do. Like, you are kind of bucking the trend of what conventional agriculture has been for the last 200 or so years in this country, what the dominant narrative is of what a farmer should be doing and, treating their land. And so potentially organic farmers are, a bit ambitious, a bit creative, a bit critical, thinking of, is this the best way that we can be doing things? Can we do something differently, which is better for the environment and for the, planetary health, but also human health? Can we get, healthier food by changing our practices? So they're asking these questions. And I think that inquisitiveness, that curiosity, that challenge of the status quo, that philosophy of looking after planet and people is something that more of us need to adopt.
What really excites me about this inaugural Organics Conference is the thing which I love about organics is they're able to bring together the whole supply chain, all different industries, and it's a pretty unique thing these days in agriculture to get so many different minds in a room together coming from all different angles. So
Totally.
and it's an industry which you've been around for quite some time, and it's growing. Like it's an interesting industry.
Yeah, and this is the thing is, in the opening speech to the chairman saying that we're a fringe part of the industry, of the agricultural industry, is not right. You're actually an integral part, and I think that's the maturity of the industry, of how it's evolved. And I think the industry should be proud. I think they've been ahead of their time with a lot of things that they've been trying to implement. We are world leaders, but we've got to act like that. We've got to have the confidence of our own industry to back it. And the fact that I think the organics industry in agriculture has probably been one of the most united in coming together and understanding what that end goal is. And I think it's now time for us to complete the domestic standards. I'm giving my support as the Nationals leader. We won't deviate off that. And industry leaders like Niki Ford did that because of passion and commitment of that end goal. And I think we're nearly there. We're not far off. And I think there's now a political commitment and will to back you as well. And I think that's a good thing. Not all regulation is bad. You sometimes need it to actually protect not only the consumer, but protect the industry. And that was the maturity of the organics industry that Niki could articulate quite clearly, of this wasn't an imposition on the industry. This was an opportunity. And that if government led with them, the opportunity would be seen not just for the consumer, but for the producer. And it was symbiotic. This, I think, is a template of how an industry should come together, have an end goal and achieve it. And this is their legacy.
How's the inaugural conference been? It's done.
Yeah, well, it's been, I think, 12 months in the making, really, from concept to actually putting it together and happening over the last couple of days. The last 6 months have been intense at the office, obviously putting all the program together, meeting with all the speakers. Some of them were a video, so a lot of that was done late at night by some of the team, and so I'm very happy. There's been some great conversations that have been had. A lot of people really impressed with the professionalism that's been seen at the conference, and the content. A lot of people have said the content was fantastic, and most people had learnt something new or made a new connection, or it was just, they got some value. Well, the first big step is we need to get back onto the domestic regulation discussion. So as Minister Watt said this morning, it is on the agenda. There's obviously been, competing priorities in recent weeks since his election with biosecurity, which we absolutely support because, our industry is underpinned by good biosecurity. So, that back on the agenda, it would be the best thing for us to know, because it is the king domino essentially to all the other things that we want to achieve: greater market access, greater opportunities for export. Until we get that regulation resolved, that's going to be our stumbling block. So for us, that's the next steps, continuing to do the lobbying work in Canberra. And trade negotiations, we talked a little bit about it in the international sessions yesterday, where Europe is such a big opportunity, and while it seems like 2026 is a long way away, it actually is going to take a while to go through those discussions. And organic, plays a big role, especially for wine going into the EU. So, trade negotiations, regulation, and continuing to create events like this where we bring the industry together, I think, will be, top of our agenda.